اختارها. والله مستريحين منه اللايف ستريم ده. كويس. لا طبعا بلا شك. السلام عليكم. ان شاء الله. مستر حاتم can we be seated? شيخ ناجي، حافظ ناجي. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا رسول الله محمد بن عبد الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه بعد. First of all, I would like to thank all of you for attending this session. After Corona, it's very rare to find people in the masajid attending, all of them claiming that they are watching online. We accept this, that's fine. We will reach out to them regardless of the way, either in face-to-face or online. And also I thank Brother Imam Muammar and administration for inviting me to sit before you tonight and share with this project, this important, for me it's very important, one of my contribution to the Quds cause, which is I am very attached to, and I will start with mentioning this story. 2006, when I left Raleigh, I left Raleigh in 2005. I was invited by one of the major rabbis to Brooklyn synagogue. Brooklyn, it's one of the fancy areas in Boston, the town of Boston. It was part of the interfaith, but also it was connected to the what was going on at the time, which is the fight between Hezbollah and the Zionists in 2006. And these people, they study others sometimes in a good way. And as Sunni, they expect me to maybe to be in their side. Versus the Shiites, which was not the case. However, we jumped from one topic to another, and at the time what I felt that they have a plan to make a big delegation from imams in the neighboring states and send them to Al-Quds. It's kind of strange generosity, if we can call this generosity, but maybe it was, they were going to ask the Americans to pay as usual. He said, would you like to join the delegation? I told him, no, I'm willing to, I have intention to visit Al-Quds, but inshallah when we free it. When we free Al-Quds, I will go. I'm committed to the prohibition of Al-Azhar, but when we free it, I will go there. And this was a shock for him, that it made the entire approach upside down, that I'm bringing you to help us within the Muslim community for promoting our cause against Hezbollah, inviting you to visit Al-Quds free. And you are saying that you will free, that then Hezbollah is easier. At least they are fighting in the south of Lebanon. He said, do you expect to free Al-Quds? I told him, I have no doubt. And he said, how come? We are the most powerful country in the Middle East. And it looks like he knew a little bit about the history, but he reminded me about our major defeat in 1967, when 4 major Arab countries' armies got collapsed in 6 days. I told him, already you got your rounds, and now the time to get another rounds against you. And I will summarize things for you in a few sentences, and you will see it if you stayed alive. You will see it. You are not fighting individuals. You are fighting everything around you. You are fighting against demography, which is you cannot beat. You are fighting against geography, which is you cannot beat. You did not create it. And you are fighting against a strong belief behind it 2 billions. Even if you killed all of the Palestinians, you will have another layer. And if you kill the second layer, you will have a third layer, and you will not be able to do. And I give him a very realistic example. I told him you will not be stronger as us, as Muslims, because of the population at least. We were ruling Spain, and we were kicked out of Spain like we were not there at all. You cannot tell that there is Muslims over except of the palace of Al-Hamra and Qurtuba Masjid from the entire Spain. We were there, but we were facing the same challenges in Spain. We were fighting against demography. Every single one we birthed over there, the Spanish, the French, the Gauls, all of these people, they birth 10. We cannot compete. We cannot just keep importing people from Morocco. Every time we need to do something, bring people from Morocco across the Mediterranean and fight. This will not work out if you are not self-sufficient and self-generating. And also I told him we were fighting against geography. Geography that these people started with a small cell in north of Spain, in Asturias. Small cell, 30 people. They went to the cave and they became the core of defeating the Muslims over the time. It took from them hundreds of years. But at the end of the day, they succeeded. They succeeded, and we were vanished over there. Those who did not migrate to Morocco, they were killed or they were subject to the Inquisition. And also we were fighting against a strong belief in Catholicism. Everyone in Europe, his devotion to God, to go and fight in Spain against the Tsars, against the Muslims. For this also, what you are facing now. If you would like to succeed in Palestine, you have to kill all of the Arabs and all of the Muslims. And free all of these areas from people, and after that you will rule this piece of land. Are you able to do this? By Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I saw some tears. Because this analysis no one can defeat. When you apply this in all of the cases, regardless if it's against the Muslims or with the Muslims, we face the same thing in India. We ruled India for a long time. At the Mongol Islamic State, we ruled India for over 400 years, until 1856. Until 1856, the Muslims were ruling India. But you cannot do it anymore. Regardless of the dreams, you can live as a Muslim, but you cannot rule with 1.5 Hindus over there. They have the land, they have the number, they have many other things supporting them. With this being said, when we are talking about defeating Zionists, some people think that you have to fight against the West. They add this to that and they said, oh, this is the 51 states in America, which is not true. And also have exaggerations and illusions, who's using who. And because of the lobbyists here in this country and the influence of it, which is true, we exaggerate things. We think that these people, they can choose the president of America, which is not the case. Or enforce things. Yes, they can support one congressman here or there, or they can make scandals to one here and there, but there is some foundations. And this country that we are living in, the foreign policy, I see this country is a very good country for living, if it's free of these things that we might talk about it at some other lecture. But other than that, the foreign policy of this country since the beginning, it's all about hypocrisy. They don't represent principles. They present opportunities. This is what they are for. They don't want to go like England or French to occupy lands and pay the price. They tried this in some countries like Korea and Vietnam and Japan, and they said this is the price of it. They need just to wait for the right time to go and collect the harvest. The easiest way, and this is why they are relying on bases, not occupying land. If it's working for them to use some country with the minimum price, they will do it. But when it reaches the level that the casualty and the price of it's very high, they run away and they change and go somewhere else. Until now, they are able to contain the issue in the Middle East between Muslims and the Zionists in very acceptable level. And they have many tools to help them to do this, not to the least of it using Arab armies to defend or to be the first layer to defend the Zionists. But this also might collapse at any time and will be on one night or overnight. And instead of being with them, it's against them. And you will see the major shift at the time. No one will talk about the right of these people to live in this land in peaceful environment and not to be harassed by such and such terrorist groups. Maybe one day you will see that moving this group from being in the terrorist list to be a friend in a friendship list. They could do this. They switched that fast. It's intensive study. I wanted to make it not to be just giving a false hopes for people who are eager to have hopes that we will have Al-Quds back. Everyone would like to pray in Al-Quds like praying in Mecca and Medina. People, they might give false hopes, but in all of my works, I would like to be very realistic. And when you try to prove things, justify things, you don't use only emotions or even our secret passages, because it's not enough. This will serve you, but will not serve the actual cause unless you go deep and study. I made this study in two parts. The first one, it's a religious study, intensive religious study relying on at least 90 tafsir to understand the verses being revealed in Surah Al-Isra about the fasad of Bani Israel, the punishment of Bani Israel, the rounds against Bani Israel. What's the interpretation? When I was young, I was amazed by interpreting word masjid. And the interpretation in the tafsir for word masjid, which is mentioned the first period twice, Masjid al-Haram ila al-Masjid al-Aqsa, then وَلِيَدْخُلُ الْمَسْجِدَ كَمَا دَخَلُوهُ أَوَّلْ مَرَّةٍ. Word masjid with this terminology to be interpreted as a temple, which is completely wrong. I was amazed that you are referring to those who will punish children of Israel for first time. Allah called them ibadan lana. With this specification, grammatically, it's very specified that they should be good, that they get the title of ibad, not abid, and also lana for Allah, specifically pure ibad of Allah, to say, oh, this the Babylonians, this the Ashurists, this is the Bukht Nasr people, and they were all idolists. They are not ibad of Allah, they were worshipping statues at the time. How can you call this? And many other things like this. I would like to say that Mufassirin, when they did tafsir, and most of them, they were offline, when they did this interpretation with full respect to great scholars, including Al-Tabari or Al-Qurtubi or Al-Zamakhshari or Al-Fakhr Al-Razi or Al-Naysaburi, different Naysaburis, or all of these scholars, Al-Wahidi, they didn't think for a second when they were making interpretation that this small group of people, the Jewish community were living here and there, they will come together and they will be threatened to Islamic State. It can't be imagined. And because of this, they thought, what's the right thing to understand the verses of the Quran about being in the highest level for the Jewish community? In the future, they are dealing with individuals. Even there was no state for them. There was no city for them. How could they reach this highest level? وَلَتَعْلُنَّ عُلُوًّا كَبِيرًا. Then they thought about past. Time of David, alayhi salatu wassalam, or time of Sulaiman, alayhi salatu wassalam. They said, oh, we refer to the past. Surah Al-Isra, it's a Meccan surah. Then it was revealed in the early stage of Islam, 3 years before the migration, telling a detailed things about the Bani Israel in the first page. And after that, towards the end of the surah also, the Quran came back to talk about them from another perspective. The names of the surah, famous name, we use it as a Muslim, Al-Isra, but maybe the most used name for the Mufassirin is Surah of Bani Israel. Even the hadith of the Prophet, hadith of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, did not use word Al-Isra, used word Bani Israel. When he was saying, oh, Surah of Bani Israel, it was one of the early surahs that I memorized in the Quran. The Prophet was reciting Surah Bani Israel, which is Al-Isra and Al-Kahf, and such, which hadith referring to this. And also we call it Surah Subhan because this is the first surah to start with word Subhan. Word Israel, this was one of the names of Yaqub, Prophet Jacob. And it's a 2 syllables. Isra, which is means the lover. It could be interpreted in different ways, even in Hebrew itself. Or it could be the one who's wrestling, the one who's serving the servant, and word Il, always, it's Allah. Jabra, Il, 2 words. Mika, Il, two words. Isra, Fil, 2 words. Israel, 2 words. Il, this syllabus, part of it means Allah, and it could have different interpretation. The servant of Allah, Yaqub, and also the wrestler of Allah, because they have in the Old Testament this funny story that God was wrestling with Yaqub. They were fighting, and finally Yaqub was able to defeat God and put him down and sit on his chest. This verses, by the way, in the Old Testament is not Talmud. No, this is the major book. And finally, God did not find any way but to ask Yaqub to free him. And he said, let me go and I will bless your descent, your offsprings. Then he freed him and he gave him the name of Israel. Give him the name of Israel, the blessings. I don't know if you are defeated, how could you give a blessings, but this, it happened according to their literature and according to the sacred passages. Then he blessed them and he called him Israel. We have the name of Israel in Quran. كل الطعام كان حلا لبني إسرائيل إلا ما حرم إسرائيل means Yaqub. From his own, he decided not to eat some kind of meat like the meat of camels. Made some prohibitions. Then when he made it for himself, Allah made it for them as well. Then we should not feel hesitant using word Israel, even if it's referring to the country that we don't like and the country that we are fighting, and we'll keep fighting until they are completely changed to something else. But word Israel as a reference to Sayyiduna Yaqub, it's been mentioned in the Quran. We have also to understand some other differences and make distinction between Yahud and Sahayina, the Arabic terms, and Israeli, Israelist, Jews, Zionists. What's the Israelist referring to 2 things. One of them traditional and one of them new. The traditional one is referring to the children of Israel, the 12 tribes, the Asbat, 12 tribes, the descendants of the 12 tribes, they call them Israelis. And anyone else, even if he became a Jew by conversion, he shouldn't be called Israeli in the traditional sense. And this is why some of the rabbis now, when they imported the flesh people, the people from Ethiopia, Abyssinia, to Israel, they didn't accept them. And they said, no, they are not one of the tribes. We don't have black people in our tribes. They are people. And they insisted to make a new baptism for them. And even after doing this and converging with them to the Judaism, they called them Yahud, but they didn't call them Israelis. In this traditional sense, they are the 12 tribes. You are referring to these people, and there is a long study if all of them is still alive or there is many tribes being lost in the history and one of them is still alive. There is you can read it in details in the encyclopedia of Dr. Abdul Wahab al-Misri. The second use of word Israeli referring to a citizenship. Those who are carrying citizenship. And this is why, because some Arab also carrying a citizenship. And they call them Israelis as metaphoric, that they belong to this country. Some even Muslims, they have the passport, the same Israeli passport, and they are called Israelis. And you see some fight once in a while from some Muslims and Arab senators in the parliament of this area. Jews referring to the religion, coming from Judaism, and Judaism, Yahudiya, coming from purification, literally meaning purification. Inna hudna ilayk. We came back, we made a repentance. We made a repentance. Yahud means those who are repenting, and they are pure people. And it's coming from a mentality that they are created in the same shape of God. And this is why they are selective. We are not selective, we are just aghyar. Me and you and Christian and all of the other people are aghyar. We are either you have Yahud or strangers. Two types of people. Anyone else is not a pure by birth, is not part of this, what we call it, Yahud, then he's aghyar and he's subject to different rules. For example, they don't use usury with each other because they are pure. But they could use usury with us or with anyone else, Christian or Africans or anyone else, because they are different people. Then we have the Zionism. Zionism, it's a movement within children of Israel, within the Judaism, not representing all of it and mixing up the Zionism with Yahudiya. It's unfair. It's unfair from our point of view, from any point of view, because there is some Jews against the Zionists. But Zionism has had a deep history. It's not just a new movement, and went to different stages. And the birth of it came in Iraq at the time of the Sabi, when they were prisoners by Bukht Nasr in Iraq. And over there, they said, a small group of movement, they initiated a decree that each one of us should claim 5 acres, 4 acres in Palestine, to make sure that even if we left this land, we'll go back. And this was the starting point of Zionism. Zionism, it's mainly secular. They don't practice religion. Netanyahu is not religious, and maybe he did not went to synagogue for the entire life, but he's Zionist. Maybe he does not believe in God at all. And I met many of Zionists, they don't believe in God of the existence. They don't believe in the prophets. They consider Sayyiduna Musa just a regular person. And they talk about David and Sulaiman as kings, not as a prophet. They are Zionists and secular Zionists, but they believe in that they deserve this land. This piece of land belongs to them regardless of the religion, regardless of the motivation. But after that, they were able to get engaged their belief in, as I mentioned in my, I think, second speech today, and they were able to merge this with the belief of the Protestant. And they came up with a major movement of Zionism from the Christian and from the some of the Jewish people. And we are not surprised that we have some Muslim Zionists, because it's all about idea, it's not about practice, about idea. Those who are saying, and we read it at some stage before October 7th, that why not? This land belonged to them because of the Quran, give it to them. This is by using the Quran with this interpretation, it's Zionism, regardless if it's coming from Muslim or it's coming from the trying to justify it. Oh, the Quran said Allah gave them this land. This the concept of Zionism. I would like also to say, I will not be able to go over all of the book, and I promised Sheikh Muammar to finish by 9:45, 9:50 my presentation, then open the floor for discussion, interactive discussion. Maybe it will we elaborate more with the discussion. But I would like to say that we misunderstand the traditional interpretation for the verses. وَقَضَيْنَا إِلَى بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ فِي الْكِتَابِ لَتُفْسِدُنَّ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَّتَيْنِ وَلَتَعْلُنَّ عُلُوًّا كَبِيرًا. Move on until فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ الْآخِرَةِ لِيَسُوءُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ وَلِيَدْخُلُوا الْمَسْجِدَ كَمَا دَخَلُوهُ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ وَلِيُتَبِّرُوا مَا عَلَوْا تَتْبِيرًا. The vast majority of Muslim scholars, they said this verse is referring to something happened in the past before the Quran. And they tried to find what is the two major or the two times of major corruption, and what is the punishment. They differ in this, but they agreed on the principle, which is this, all of it referring to a story happened before, like many other stories. The Quran reported about the children of Israel, people of Sabt, the children of the cow, the story of the cow, many things related to the past. But in reality, when you look at the taste, if we can use this word, of Surah Al-Isra, and each surah has a special taste, you will see that this surah is not referring to something in the past. It's referring to something will happen in the future. And I proved this in the books also from the Arabic language, from different analysis. But you will see a combination combining Muslims and the children of Israel. First, referring to the two holy places are respected. Al-Masjid al-Haram respected by the Arab at the time and the Muslims later on. Al-Masjid al-Aqsa is respected by the Jewish people, referring to Jerusalem, and the Muslims later on. This combining both communities. Second, referring to the books. وَآتَيْنَا مُوسَى الْكِتَابِ. We provided Musa with the book, which is the Torah. And when we say Torah, by the way, we have to make distinction between the books of Yahud. They have different books. Many people, they think that when you say Torah means we are referring. No, they have different books. They have Torah, which is 5 books, contain 5 books. And we have the sacred passages of the prophets. Also, it's part of their holy books. It's not like the Sunnah in our tradition. No, it's these also the books of the prophets, like Irmiah, like Hizkiah, like all of these prophets, they use it in their prayers, like what we recite. And they have also the teaching, we call it Mazamir in Arabic, the teaching of the Dawood and others. The 3 types of major books are subject for the prayers, and they read it every Saturday. And also, in addition to that, they have the teaching of the rabbis, the major rabbis, we call it Talmud. Most of it stories, and most of it some environmental stuff, and also some of it, it's their own intuitions. And they give it also consideration, and they give it the same level of the Torah. This collectively the major books of the Yahud. But when the Quran refers to وَآتَيْنَا مُوسَى الْكِتَابِ, referring to the Torah, the pure Torah, Then after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala linked this to the book of the Muslims. إِنَّ هَذَا الْقُرْآنِ يَهْدِي لِلَّتِي هِيَ أَقْوَمُ. Linking the Quran to the Torah and making this combination. And also when you read what we have from وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ in this surah, you will feel that you are reciting the 10 Commandments. Right? Anyone read the 10 Commandments in the Torah? Maybe you came to or you listened to. But I made a comparison between what we have in the Quran, because both of them, the 10 Commandments and the wasaya in Surah Al-Isra and the wasaya of Surah Al-An'am, they came from the same source, from Allah. And they can't be changed. For you will see one verse referring to be good to your parents. وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Don't use idols. Then أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا, the monotheism. Be nice to this and be... don't commit adultery. وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا. We have this and we have that. You put this face side by side, you will see that no, it's between the Muslims and the Jewish community, not between the Jews and the Babylonians or the Ashurists or even the Pharaohs, the Egyptian. It's between these two communities. And also we have the major enemy of the Bani Israel was Fir'aun, and the major enemy of the Prophet in this stage, when the Quran was revealed, also Fir'aun Abu Jahl, Fir'aun هذه الأمة. This is the hadith of the Prophet. He is the Fir'aun of this nation. The Prophet was faced with Fir'aun, Musa was faced with Fir'aun, also make some connection. In given indication to, amongst the surah given indications to the times of prayer. And you will be amazed that in this surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about the times of the prayers, not the number of the prayers for the Muslims. أقم الصلاة لدلوك الشمس, morning. إلى غسق الليل, during the day. وقرآن الفجر, night prayers. Referring to 3 times. And also we see in Judaism they have 3 prayers. Similar to this. The Shaharit and Minha and Arabit in Hebrew. They have 3 times of prayer. Then you are referring to, Allah could say 5 times, but He said 3 times also to give indication that we are, in this particular surah, we are comparing between Muslims and the Jews as a religion. Also you will see the challenge. The reflection of the challenge. In this surah, one of the rare surahs that the Quran reported that Meccan people came asking the Nabi alayhi salatu salam for physical miracles. Miracles, physical miracles. وقالوا لن نؤمن لك حتى تفجر لنا من الأرض ينبوعا. This reminds you with what? When they came to Sayyidina Musa and asked him to the blessings of Sayyidina Musa, we don't have water. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, hit the rock, you will get the water. They asking for similar things. Then plantation. Bani Israel asked for a plantation. They asked Nabi alayhi salatu salam to turn Arabic Peninsula into gardens instead of the desert area. Did they ask Sayyidina Musa? Yes. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us plant such and such things like the Egyptian. Then going up, also they asked Sayyidina Musa to go and talk to Allah directly. Always there is someone in the middle, would like to talk. Also Meccan people, they said, we need either an angel to come with his wings and to tell us that you are representing the truth, or the book should not come to you between you and Jibreel. We need the book to come down. This also similar to Bani Israel. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also is telling in this surah, we are not talking about something in the past, we are talking about 2 scenes. One will happen to the Muslims, or it's happening, and one already happened with Bani Israel, not to mention وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ, which came originally as a question from the Jewish people. Very quick indications, and I hope that you will get a chance to read the book. We have the Arabic version. And I tried to use a very acceptable language, not very classy language. And we have the interpretation, and several copies will be left in the library here. And I can send it to you. Sheikh Muammar has the PDF file. You can read it. Please read it, even if from away, just to get an idea. But we have things, indication. Why I'm choosing this explanation that the two major corruptions of Bani Israel, we are not referring to the past, we are referring to the future. Because if we said Bani Israel did only throughout their history, from the time of Yaqub until the time of Sayyidina Isa, two corruptions only, then we should respect them. Close to 2,000 years, and they did only two corruptions. We are Muslims and we did many corruptions, right? Some of people, they killed Sayyiduna Uthman and they claimed themselves Muslim. Muslims fought each other at the different Siffin and Al-Jamal and Nahrawan. 30,000 people got killed in this fight. Bani Umayyah fought Bani al-Abbas to the extent that Bani al-Abbas wiped off this family completely and there is no Umayyad anymore. We have many corruptions. And you are talking about children of Israel, they did two only, then we should compliment them for this. This is not complaints, this should be compliment. But when you look at the history before Islam, you will see that they did many corruptions. They killed the prophets, they changed the Torah, they changed the rules. They didn't enter any area, but they created corruptions within the society. They attacked Irmia. They killed Sayyiduna Yahya. They killed Sayyiduna Zakaria. They denied their prophethood. They said David was adulteress. Sulaiman came from haram. This is what they have. If you are talking about corruption and misguidance, they did hundreds of things. Then how come that you are referring to all of this corruption in the society, in the religion, even in the ibadah itself as two times? وَقَضَيْنَا إِلَى بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ فِي الْكِتَابِ لَتُفْسِدُنَّ فِي الْأَرْضِ. Two times, then it's something very good. Myself, I will accept to be corrupted 2 times in my life. I guarantee Jannah for this. But each one of us, we need a repentance every day from the corruption. We major sins or minor sins. But these people, they are addicted to the major sins. They are addicted to the corruption. And the Quran documented some of this and also documented many of their corruptions. Just the journey between Egypt and the Holy Land in Palestine, even they didn't enter the Holy Land, they made several opposes to Allah. We can talk about it later on. 5-6 things, including worshipping the statues and abandoning Sayyidina Musa and refusing to enter the Red Sea and say, go you and Harun first. You are asking us to go in the Red Sea. No, go first and after that will follow. They didn't go to the Holy Land. They refused to go to the Holy Land. And they said, go and fight and prepare everything, then we'll go. They were not accepting any rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this referring to 2 major corruptions. And when you look at the history of Israel, the first one happened at the time of the Prophet when they betrayed him. And they made a secret deal to let the Meccan people enter from the back. And this, by the way, it was major because if the Meccan, at least 3,000 or 4,000 attack the Muslims in the battle of the trench from the back, where the women and the children, they will come from the back and front, they will finish them off and will not have Islam. This was a major corruption. And because of this, and Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam took them to the judgment, to the court, and they were, the verdict came as a major treason. Executed 500 people because they did not betray the Prophet. They did not betray Islam. They betrayed the truths of Al-Madinah that they signed, and they were going to kill everyone. And because of this, they were punished, and in different ways. Some of them, they were moved out, and some of them were executed. And since this time, there was no presence, major presence for the children of Israel in the entire history as a state or as an entity. Just small groups here and there until 1948. From this time, a year 5 after the migration, in the 7th century, For all of these centuries, they were not represented in any formal states. And they were making sense, but they didn't make a corruption, major corruption in the society that the way we saw it before. For this one, and the second one started recently in 1948 when they established their own state. We have many things to support this claim. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, لَتُفْسِدُنَّ فِي الْأَرْضِ. Something referring to the future, not referring to the past. You did fasad. You could say, no, لَتُفْسِدُنَّ, you will. And when you reveal the Quran today and you say, you will, you are referring to the past or you are referring to the future? Second, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَلَا تَعْلُنَّ عُلُوًّا كَبِيرًا. عُلُو kabir, by the way, there is no single words in the Quran does not have a specific meaning. Even sometimes we say mutaradifat, synonyms. Oh, this is the meaning of that. No, the Quran does not have mutaradifat. Quran, every single word has its own meaning. Yes, they could be close, but when you look deep in the language, you will see that the usage of this word, it's referring to something. It could have extra meaning. And you can challenge as you want in the Quran, from cover to cover. I will tell you the difference between even very close. We use it loosely sometimes, but in reality, no, is not in this meaning. When you say لَتَعْلُنَّ عُلُوًّا كَبِيرًا, you will reach the highest level of power. Tell me in the history of children of Israel before Islam, when they reached the highest level of power. They didn't reach the highest level of power. The historian and the Mufassirin, they say the highest level of power they reached at the time of Dawood. What they did? They defeated the natives and they occupied not even entire Palestine. They occupied some of it. The south part of Palestine was not part of the kingdom of Dawood. Not even a part of the kingdom of Sulaiman. This is not the highest level. The highest level of power when you are like America. This is the highest level of power because their power is not limited to this continent, but they have power all over the places. This what you call it علوا كبيرا. I will give you just simple thing about the temple of Sulaiman. As Gustave Le Bon said, he said these people are bragging a lot about temple of Sulaiman. I did a study according to the Torah, and alhamdulillah I read the Torah. Some chapters I read it several times, and I tried to visualize the size of the temple. The size of the temple close to the meeting room here, the Imam's meeting room. Maybe bigger, little bit bigger. It's smaller than any temple in Egypt, the Pharaonic Egypt. It's very smaller than this. It's just a few feet and some feet by some feet, not acres, not a huge land. And one of the major European historians, they said these people, they consider it large because they were farmers living in the area of Palestine. They did not visit Al-Iraq, and they saw the temples of the Babylonians. They did not see the temples of the Greece, did not see the temples of the pharaohs, to see that what they did, it's very small and is not considered by any means part of the world civilization treasures. All of the power were given to Sayyiduna Sulaiman was limited to a certain area, and also to Sayyiduna Dawood. But look at the power that the وَلَتَعْلُنَّ عُلُوًّا كَبِيرًا, small country in Middle East, using scaring all of his neighbors, including major countries like Egypt, Syria, Iraq. In 1967, 6 days, they completely destroyed the Egyptian army. 85,000 people got lost in the in the Sinai Peninsula. They destroyed our air forces in 6 hours, from 8 in the morning to 12 p.m. They destroyed 12 bases, Egyptian 12 bases, Jordanian bases in 2 days after, and Syrian bases. Can you imagine the power they have at the time? Occupied lands, Arabic Peninsula, Sinai Peninsula, they added 2/3 to the state because it's bigger than Palestine itself. And they occupied Golan Heights and south of Lebanon and the West Bank and East Jerusalem, Al-Quds. This is the high power. And also dictate your terms. When you make your enemies play the role according to your terms, this is the power. When you tell them what to do, when you scare them and completely paralyze their power, this is the power. This didn't happen in the entire history of Israel. Even when they were taken prisoners in Iraq by the Bukht Nasr, when they got free, they didn't fight against the Iraqis. The Cyrus came from Iran, occupied Iraq, and he got married from one of these people. It was a young lady, and they appealed to him. They said, "Why don't you send my people back to Palestine?" This was a gift. It was not by their effort. But the establishment of Israel, no, it was their effort. They were able to gather out of 400,000 population, 160 as armies, men and women. This is the strength you can tell. It didn't happen in the entire history of Israel. فَوَلَتَعْلُنَّ عُلُوًّا كَبِيرًا, also referring to the future, not referring to the past, because they never reached this level. Now you see عُلُوًّا كَبِيرًا when you use your enemies to defend you. Can you, this didn't happen in the history, but in a few cases. Japan with America, for example. Japanese are completely, they lost it. And they became, anyway. Germany, with all of the owner, Germany, Bismarck, Germany, Barbarossa, they lost their dignity. They lost their dignity. Some of the Arabs, who are the first layer of enemies of these people, also they lost their dignities. And they are appealing to this small area. Even if any one of them would like to seek a leadership position, they go and beg them, "Can you help us to be a president of my country?" This highest level of power. When your enemies, you appeal to your enemies. This didn't happen in the history of children. Then when they do this, and they didn't thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all of this power that they have, then فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ الْآخِرَةِ فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ أُولَاهُمَا بَعَثْنَا عَلَيْكُمْ عِبَادًا لَنَا. Also another reference to this. It didn't happen from anyone. It happened from believers of Allah. In the first time, it happened from the Prophet, and when he said لا يصلين أحد منكم العصر إلا في بني قريظة, they were punished by the Prophet. Word ibad in the Quran was mentioned close to 100 times, 95 of them referring to believers, and 5 times of that referring to general people. But when you look at it, and I did intensive study, referring to people in the hereafter. And in the hereafter, because we have 2 words, abid for everyone, Muslims or non-Muslim, ibad referring to Muslims. But there is 5 times word ibad used and connecting disbelievers. But when you look at the context of this, you will see it's referring to the hereafter. In the hereafter, everyone is ibad. There is no abid, because there is no disbelievers in the hereafter. There is nothing to disbelieve in. There is no deeds over there. We will not do anything. Over there, everyone will be ibad, because even the disbelievers, they will figure out, oh, we were wrong. And they will try to excuse themselves, and they will go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Based on the vast majority, and also based on the usage of the language word ibad, it's referring to Muslims. Then it should not be used to refer, or it can't be used to refer to the Iraqis at the time, or even the Egyptian who attacked Bani Israel several times because they were pharaohs, worshipping their Ra and Amun and whatever they were worshipping. And also is not for the Romans. The Romans, they didn't accept Christianity, but in the 4th century after the Christ, alayhi salatu wassalam. It's referring to ibad. And not only ibad, he could ba'athna alaykum ibadan. Maybe you say, okay, there is a chance that these people, ibad, it could be non-Muslims. But ibadan lana. This preposition, la, with the pronoun na, it's referring to very specific people. In Arabic, I don't want to go to grammar session, but ibadan lana, when you say, this is for me, okay? This is for me. Li hada li. This means what? Belong to you or belong to someone else? Huh? I'm sleeping. Really? I'm boring, huh? Referring to Sheikh Labid. To me. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Surah Al-A'raf, فَإِذَا جَاءَتْهُمُ الْحَسَنَةُ قالوا what? Huh? لَنَا هَذَا. لَنَا. It's not هذه لَنَا. No, لَنَا هذه means there is no one else could claim it. فَعِبَادًا لَنَا, no one else can claim them. But Babylonians, no, they were worshipping their own status. The Syrians, they were worshipping their own status. The Pharaohs, they were worshipping their own status. Ibadah lana, it's only for Allah. Who deserved this? Prophet and his companions. Prophet and his companions. And also I proved that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used the same terms several times in the Quran referring to Muslims, no one else. Uli ba'sin shadid, when you see word uli ba'sin shadid, to remind you with what has been mentioned in some surahs also, including Surah Al-Hashr, describing those who uli ba'sin shadid. Also, when they were dealing with the Yahud. Uli ba'sin shadid also it was used referring to the Muslims. For using uli ba'sin shadid, here you have to understand it according uli ba'sin shadid been mentioned in Surah Al-Hashr, which is referring to the Muslims. You cannot make it say uli ba'sin shadid Iraqi or Egyptian. No, these people, the same word for the Iraqi and for the Egyptian, Allah did not use uli ba'sin shadid, but he referred to the Muslim by using uli ba'sin shadid. فجاسوا خلال الديار, they got advantage. جاسوا خلال الديار means they enter areas they did not enter before. Do you know that the castles and the citadels of the Yahud in Medina, no one stepped in. They were not allowed. Even the Muslims, even the Prophet did not enter it. For this was the first time for them to go in and to see, because when they were seeing the walls from outside, they thought that, oh, we cannot get in. Especially in Khaybar, we cannot get in. And they tried, by the way, for a while when they were conquering Khaybar, until the Prophet peace be with him said, tomorrow I will give the banner to someone. He loves Allah and Allah loves him. And he gave it to who? Huh? Ali ibn Abi Talib, Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib. And because they didn't know what is behind the walls, this was the first time, فَجَاسُوا خِلَالِ الدَّارِ, it was first time for them, for the Muslim to get exposed to this land. This also another indication. Then Bani Israel, they will get their second round. ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَا لَكُمُ الْكَرَّةَ عَلَيْهِمْ. على against who? Then we'll give you another round. Yahud will give you, or children of Israel, not Yahud, will give you another round against the same people who punished you in the first time. Ask yourself this question. Did the Yahud in the past, children of Israel, got another chance against the Babylonians, Iraqi? Never. They never went to Iraq and they never fight them. Then how can we understand ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَا لَكُمُ الْكَرَّةَ عَلَيْهِمْ, against them? Did they get a chance against the Roman? No, they didn't. Actually, when the Roman, they were enslaving the Yahud all of the time. But especially after converting to Christianity, they started punishing them for crucifying Al-Masih. And Helena, the mother of the emperor at the time, Constantine, came and visited Palestine. She found a small tiny place for their worship. She said, no, make it a big trash can. And they kept the trash can until Umar ibn al-Khattab went and cleaned it up. They couldn't resist, and they didn't fight against the Roman. Then ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَا لَكُمُ الْكَرَّةَ عَلَيْهِمْ, against who? They didn't fight against the Pharaohs. They didn't get any chance against the Pharaohs. Against those who moved you out, punished you, and you will see the real interpretation in the history. When they took over, started from 1913, the big waves of migration, especially after Balfour Decree. 1926, close to 120,000. They came back to Palestine. By 1936, which is the major Arab revolution in Palestine, it's major. I hope that our new fellows read this history. They were close to 300,000. And by the establishment or the decree of the United Nations, 1947, they were close to 400,000. And after the establishment of the state, they start doubling the numbers and getting people right over there. In 1948, 6 Arab countries, they enter the land to as they said, we will go and make deep adab for these gangs, Haganah and Shitrin and all of this. Like, they consider them gangs. In 3 months, they came out all defeated. We lost. Egyptian army, Syrian army, Iraqi army, Jordanian army, Lebanese forces, and the army of the United Arab Union. 6 armies, in addition to the local Palestinian. All of this, they were able to gather 40,000, 45,000. The Israelis were able to gather 160. Then they got their revenge from the Muslims. Why? We can explain it, but it was good for them because they used the word of the causes, and it was against us because we reached the level of corruption deserving to be punished. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described their situation over there, and it's very amazing. I have to move to finish in 3 minutes or 2 minutes. Amazing. فإذا جاء ثم رددنا لكم الكرة عليه وأمددناكم بأموال, became the richest, very rich. And I mentioned in my book 1 family only. Can you imagine? They have 1/5 of the national budget, the treasure. Rothschild family, who established the banking system. 1 family only. أمددناكم بأموال, unlimited. وبنين through the others, that their numbers, the inside. وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ أَكْثَرَ نَفِيرًا, which is very important. أَكْثَرَ نَفِيرًا, if you would like to refer to the history of Israel, including the time, according to the Quran, including at the time of defeating the Palestinian, at the time of Jalut. The Quran described their situation like what? They went out with a big army. And they were, before crossing the river, most of them came back. And after crossing the river, he said, when you cross the river, don't drink. As a test, most of them drank from the river, then they were punished also. And finally, they came up with the small number. This is not أكثر نفيرا. أكثر نفيرا was not represented in the history of Israel. It was represented now. How? That, subhanallah, in the army, look at this. Nafir means you can gather large number in a short time. Use the maximum power of fire against even a huge number of your enemies. This is أكثر نفيرا. In Israel, it used before, but in October 7, we figured out that they are also became corrupted like us. In 1973, they were able to call the reserve in 72 hours. In the first 24 hours, they were able to get 50% of their reserve. No country, even America, can call the reserve that fast. This is Nafir, to gather people from right and left. Every single one of these, underarmed, men and women, even those who are serving in the civil parts, they can call 60% of the population. No single Arab countries can call. Even if you are calling a reserve in a major countries like Egypt, 120, the reserve, it's 500,000. Out of 120, in Israel, they can call 60% of the population. And when they call the reserve, each one of them, they know where is his station. And they go, his weapon, his uniform, everything is ready to go for fight. Some of them, they just go to the station and they ship them directly to the battlefield. this أكثر نفيرا, to substitute. In refueling and reinstating the planes in 1967, it took from them less than 15 minutes to refuel and make it fly again. And this is why we thought in 1967 that Israeli air forces, they were 600 planes. In reality, they were 180 because they minimized the time and they were flying different rounds. This أكثر نفيرا. It didn't happen at the time of... Finally, alhamdulillah, we see the remarks. It's very clear to prove that it's talking about the future, and this what they are expecting. فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ الْآخِرَةِ, the final promise. لِيَسُوءُ وُجُوهَكُمْ. يَسُوءُ is a present tense, not a past tense. يَسُوءُ, they will do. يَسُوءُ has a pronoun, u, referring to the same people they did it before. And the same people they did it before, according to our analysis, the Muslims. And they will do it again. But this time, it will not be just a punishment. It will be different completely. First, they expose them, expose all of their liars. سَاءَ وَجْهُهُ means he got exposed, he cannot lie anymore. He cannot. Look at what we see now. Who is believing the Zionists? Even their friends here in yes, time, inshallah. Please go back to read the Surah Al-Isra again and read it with this analogy. And I'm not saying to convince you to take one point against the major of the Mufassirin, but I told you the excuse of the Mufassirin. But what we are going to see, and I bet on my life that sooner than what we expect, this ayah will be interpreted in action. And we started seeing this. All of the elements of loss, it was against us in the society of Israel. The second chapter of the book, I made intensive studying the society inside this country, the division according to beliefs, and a division according beliefs within the Judaism, not different, not to mention Christianity and other. Division based on classes. They have different classes. The division based on secularism, and they have the same bombs that we are facing. They have their own version of Daesh over there. They have Haridim. They have a new movement called Harilidim, which is more extreme, religious and nationalist at the same time. This, all of it, is not for the state. It's against a state and is threatening the style of life. And also the challenge of the third generation, which is also was against us, will be against them as well. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us a great chance to witness freeing Palestine from the sea to the river and enjoying the prayers in Al-Aqsa Sharif, inshallah, soon enough.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله